It's the perfect time of year to update your closet, especially when you get the opportunity to treat yourself to something nice. And with Quince, you get everyday luxury at an affordable price. Quince has an amazing selection of leggings, yoga pants. They've got European linen sheet sets, Italian leather handbags, beautiful jewelry, and even a washable silk skirt that I'm eyeing right now. Every piece is crafted with premium fabrics and finishes for that luxury feel. I picked up a beautiful pair of plum-colored high-rise crossover leggings, and I love pairing them with a cozy Mongolian cashmere sweater, one of the most iconic pieces from Quince, which starts at $50. Whatever you're looking for, all Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. So treat yourself this winter without the luxury price tag. Go to quince.com/8020 for 365-day returns plus free shipping on your order. That's QUINCE.com/8020 to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/8020.
Welcome to Nada Yada Island.
Next on Metro's Nada Yada Island podcast.
I almost fainted when the 4 new bombshells arrived. 4 free Samsung Galaxy A16 5G phones at Metro.
No way.
And finding out the 4th line is free. Oh, things got heated.
That's wild. Join Metro and get 4 free Samsung 5G phones. Only at Metro.
Plus tax. Bring 4 numbers and an ID and sign up for any Metro Flex plan. Not available currently at T-Mobile or been with Metro in the past 180 days.
You can't simultaneously pursue your calling and pursue the life that God has for you and please everybody. You just can't do it. You hear people saying things like, oh, I accept that challenge, or hey, I'm embracing the challenge. But you don't really hear people say like, oh, I'm going to embrace the issue. You hear people say, I have issues, or you hear people say, you have issues, but you really don't hear people say, oh, I accept those issues and I'm just gonna live with them. When we are presented with an opportunity to grow, it usually comes with a lot of discomfort, usually comes with a lot of times where we're questioning if this is part of the plan, where we're questioning if this is the right next step. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for clicking on today's episode. My name is Lily. I'm your host, and you are listening to 8020, brought to you by That Sounds Fun. And this episode is going to be fun. I've got a couple secrets to share. I've got a couple psychology hacks to share. I wrote a paper this week, and I'm kind of integrating that. And 8020 has a new cover. If you haven't seen it, look down at your phone. And there's just a lot of good stuff coming at you in this episode. I spent probably the past 10 minutes doing what I like to think of as a vocal warm-up, but really it was a take 1 of this intro. And I'm going to call it a vocal warm-up just to make myself feel a little bit better about myself. I don't know why I was feeling so shy, but for some reason I just was like in a weird headspace. Yeah, it was weird. I think it's because I haven't recorded in probably a month. Like I've done a couple pre-recorded episodes, or at least I posted a couple pre-recorded episodes. And I mean, recorded recently, but just, like I've had stuff lined up. We did a big launch at the beginning of the month, which if you guys missed that, you should definitely go back and listen to the new 8020 trailer. You should take a peek at the new 8020 cover. We did a little bit of a rebrand. It's not too far off of what we already had, but just it kind of, I think, not kind of, it really does do a much better job of describing what 8020 is all about. It reflects who I am as a person in this season of life, opposed to just like a picture of me on the beach, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. It just was like, it didn't really show what this show was about. And I am just so happy with the rebrand and how we get to portray the show from a cover, because really, when it comes down to it, like, you do judge a book by its cover. As sad as it is to say that, you judge a podcast by its cover. That big news dropped about 2 weeks ago. So if you missed it, you should definitely go back and listen to wait a minute. That dropped like a month ago. That's crazy. I don't know where January went, but it flew by. Needless to say, go back and listen to the trailer if you guys haven't. It's pretty cool. And the biggest news out of all that is that 8020 is now working in partnership with That Sounds Fun. They are a faith-based podcast network in Nashville, and they are just going to be in charge of really just like elevating the show, taking it to the next level. They've been so amazing and so encouraging, and have really just helped me kind of like narrow down the direction that I want the show to go in. And I'm feeling so confident and so supported in this like next chapter of 80/20. And so I really hope that you guys are just enjoying the content. And if you aren't subscribed, I would encourage you to do so, because the content and the guests and the collabs and the brands, like it's just going to keep getting better and better. And I am just so grateful for you for sticking around through all the ups and downs. And if you're new to the show, a very, very, very special welcome to you. I'm so happy that you're here. And I hope that you subscribe and stick around. And if you aren't already, definitely subscribe to our newsletter. That will be linked in the show notes. I try my best. I try my best to send something out at least once a week. I don't spam you. I don't share crazy stuff. It's most of the time like me in a coffee shop typing away about things that are on my mind, or like little updates. So I've become a little bit of a newsletter girl. Like I've really been enjoying reading other people's newsletters. I love For the Girl. If you guys listen to this podcast, I've mentioned For the Girl before. They send out a weekly newsletter and I've really been enjoying reading that. Matthew McConaughey just launched a newsletter. It's called Lyrics of Livin', and I've been enjoying his newsletters. And then my girl Callie, she owns Sweaty Studio, Sunshine Pilates, and she hosts Healthy But Human. She sends out Sweaty Studio newsletters, so I get those sometimes. I don't know, and sometimes like a catchy subject line just catches my eye, and I'm like, you know what? I like this newsletter. So there's some random ones in there sometimes that catch my eye. But if you're enjoying newsletters like I am right now, be sure to subscribe to the 80/20 newsletter. It's called the 80/20 Weekly. I would love to come up with a better name for that, but I don't have one. So I'm taking suggestions. I'm open to it. That usually comes to your inbox on like Thursdays or Fridays. If you do enjoy today's episode, please be sure to give it a rating and a review. And that just helps more people find and listen to the show. Send it to a friend who might like it. I know you have a friend who probably is going through something, and I feel like we're all going through something. I feel like January has been like the longest month ever. But if you feel like your friend is entering into or currently in a season where they might need a little extra love, especially when it comes to having a growth mindset, use caution. Don't just like send it to a friend and be like, I feel like you should listen to this and improve your growth mindset. Like, proceed with caution. But I do feel like in your 20s, like you literally just turn a corner all of a sudden without realizing it. And you're like, wait a second, I'm presented with challenges and I'm viewing them as issues. And I could really use a mindset shift. And so that, I hope, is what this episode will do for you today. All that being said, I think it's important to kind of preface this by saying that I am entering into a growth season, whether I like it or not. And I've been avoiding talking about this on the pod because it's not a done deal yet. I've learned in my years of being on the internet, don't make announcements, just make moves. And as silly as that is, you guys know like people will post, this was like big when I was in like middle and high school. People would post on Instagram, they're like, I'm making big moves, like success doesn't want to see me come in. Like, just like people would announce that they're doing things. And I'm like, just do the thing. You don't have to announce it. Just go ahead and do the thing. Make moves in silence. But if you're loud about the silence, then you're not actually making moves in silence. I've really found there's so much value in not announcing something before the time is right. And so I think I'm going to keep what's about to happen quiet. And I hate to put you guys on the edge of your seats again for like the second time in like 4 or 5 weeks. But you will find out very, 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 very soon what's going down. And I'll give you one hint, and it has to do with cardboard boxes. And that's all I'm going to say. That being said, I am entering into a growth season. Okay. I'm buckling up. I'm strapping in. I'm preparing myself. I'm trying my best to get it under control now, like get my emotions under control, set my expectations, get my ducks in a row, and really just like be okay with the change that's about to happen and fully rely on the fact that this change, this next step that I've been called to is God's plan for me and just a piece of the puzzle. Most people that I talk to have told about this thing that's about to happen, and I hate to be so cryptic. I'm so sorry, guys. Most people that I talk to about this thing that's about to happen, they just, whether they knew that I needed encouragement or not, because I've never like come out and say blatantly to the people in my life, like, hey, I could really use some encouragement. But everyone's been so encouraging. And most people who are older than I am, they'll hit me with something along the lines of like, hey, my life didn't start until I turned 24. My life really didn't get going until I was like 25, 26. I didn't even know what I wanted to do until I was 30. And so hearing all of that from people who I really value their insight and their support has been really encouraging. And I feel like this next thing that I'm stepping into is going to require a huge growth mindset, but it's also going to require me to put my faith in the fact that God has a perfect plan for my life, and one chapter closing and another chapter starting is just part of the plan. So I got to get my emotions under control. I got to get my expectations under control. I really need to take my feelings out of the work that has to get done. Plain and simple. Like, I have to be not necessarily emotionless about certain things, because I think that there's a lot of power in vulnerability, but I just think I need to like kind of like put my big girl panties on and like get some stuff done. So that's kind of where we're at. And I'll share more probably within the next couple of weeks of what's going down when it does go down. And if you want to know what's going down, probably before I put stuff on the pod, follow me on Instagram, because I might post some stuff there. Who knows? That will be linked in the show notes. I wrote an essay this week, and I wrote it on this guy named Andler. He was a psychologist, a very, very early psychologist, worked with some of those OG philosophers and psychologists. And he created some theories that are called safeguarding tendencies. And I'm currently a psych student. I go to Liberty Online. I'm in my senior year, which is so exciting. And I'm taking some really cool classes. And I've really, really been enjoying this unit this week. And I'm going to submit my essay tonight. That's like next on my to-do list. But I really wanted to integrate some of these safeguarding tendencies into today's episode, because I think the more I've been learning about the brain and how we operate, the more I realize that like you can really train your brain to do so many amazing, incredible things. And obviously that's kind of a blanket statement. There's so much more that goes into that, but there are some behaviors that just come so much more naturally than others. And unfortunately, the more I learn about our brains and how we operate as humans, the more I realize that like we're kind of hardwired to go worst case scenario. And I know that from my own life. I know in my own testimony podcast that I posted a couple weeks ago, even, I was hardwired to choose negative emotions. I was hardwired to really perceive the world as just many, many issues. And I was kind of hardwired to perceive myself and the world around me as an issue. And I think that that's kind of a tactic that the enemy uses to hinder our relationship with the Lord by making us feel like we don't have control over our behaviors. And a lot of times there are instances where people truly do not have control over their behaviors. My depression, my anxiety, my anger. I was so quick to anger. If you knew me 4 or 5 years ago, like there are behaviors that do not reflect the person that God created us to be, just because we're kind of like, okay, maybe not hardwired to choose negative behaviors, but it's almost like they're easier to choose. I don't know why, but for like such a long time, it was easy for me to revert to these safeguarding tendencies because I was afraid of failure, or because I was afraid of what people might think of me if I messed up, or because I was too obsessed with protecting my own self-esteem, protecting my own self-importance. My textbook describes it as safeguarding tendencies are tools used to protect people from public disgrace. So just to provide a little bit more detail here, these safeguarding tendencies, there's 3 of them that Andler came up with. They are excuses, aggression, and withdrawal. Excuses is pretty much self-explanatory. You make excuses for not doing things. Oftentimes this comes in like if-then statements or like if-only statements. This is hypothetical, but if only my parents didn't force me to become a doctor, then I would be an artist instead and I would be happier because I'm not happy with the career choice that my parents made me choose, or something like that. A lot of times we place the blame on someone else or something else because we don't want to take accountability for our own actions or our own failures. Excuses are the things that we come up with, the things that we say, the things that we tell ourselves because we haven't achieved what we thought we would have achieved by now. Aggression comes in 3 forms: accusation, deprecation, and self-deprecation. When it comes to deprecation, it's the tendency to undervalue other people's achievements, to overvalue your own. So this comes in your classic form of like gossiping, putting someone down for doing something cool because you didn't do it first kind of thing. And this is one that I see happen so often, and it's kind of a natural default for a lot of people. And this one is the one that, in my opinion, hinders your calling the most. You are presented with so many options and so many opportunities in your life. And if you're constantly trying to please everybody, you're never going to be able to amount to much. You're never going to be able to fully fall into your calling because you're too worried about what other people might say about you. But that person's aggressive deprecation is a reflection of them, not a reflection of you. That was a sidebar. The second one is accusation, and this is a tendency to blame others for your own failure. If you want to make something happen, you got to go out and make it happen. Like, no one is going to do the work for you. No one is going to pursue your calling for you. My textbook makes a really interesting point here. It says that aggressive accusation is apparent in all unhealthy lifestyles. And it's interesting because it doesn't really go too deep into what an unhealthy lifestyle means here in this context. But I would imagine that an unhealthy person, maybe it's in regard to their behaviors or their lifestyle choices. I do believe that people are a product of their choices. Some stuff is circumstantial, no doubt about it, but a lot of it is based on your choices. And if you're placing blame on other people because of the choices that you made, huge issue. Huge issue, especially when it comes to taking accountability for your own life and your own calling. All right, third form of aggression is self-accusation, and this manifests itself in the form of self-torture. So the textbook outlines it as depression, suicide, hurting people close to you. This is the one that I called out in my essay actually as relating the most to, which is crazy, but I think that I could do a whole entire podcast. I feel like I probably have, but in the future I probably will again, do a whole entire podcast just based on this behavior alone. The textbook says that people devalue themselves in order to magnify their own feelings of self-esteem, which is really sad. But these are all behaviors that I'm familiar with and that you probably are familiar with too. And it's cool to learn about because it's cool to call it out. The third form of safeguarding is withdrawal. And this comes in the forms of moving backwards, standing still, hesitating, or creating obstacles. And those are kind of self-explanatory. I feel like this is something that I resonate with a lot too. Like something that I have really wrestled with in my, gosh, I wish that I could just tell you guys what I have up my sleeve or what's about to go down in February, but I'm just going to keep you on the edge of your seat just a little bit longer. But I've had so many moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, am I backpedaling? Am I moving backwards? Am I taking steps in reverse? Am I doing something that is going to hinder my self-growth? And I just firmly believe, this is such a great segue into our psychology hacks here in a moment, but I firmly believe that the only way that you will hinder your own growth is if you decide that you're done growing. If you decide not to look at the silver lining in a situation, if you decide not to look for the lesson in a situation, then you're done growing. But if you approach every single day, like when you hit the button on the coffee maker in the morning and you say, God, please use me today, use the lessons of the day, please use my situation, my circumstances, wherever I find myself today to glorify you and learn more about you, you're totally going to set yourself up for success. You're totally going to make the day such a great one because you are opting for a growth mindset and opting to invite God into your day and into your growth mindset. And he's going to do really, really, really cool things with that.
Winter, a time filled with outdoor fun and games. Until a pipe freezes and bursts. Don't let winter weather burst your pipes. Mow & Flow monitors your home's water and shuts it off automatically.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. Sometimes the most painful part of getting sick is the getting better part. Waiting on hold for an appointment, sitting in crowded waiting rooms, standing in line at the pharmacy, that's painful. Amazon One Medical and Amazon Pharmacy remove those painful parts of getting better with things like 24/7 virtual visits and prescriptions delivered to your door. Thanks to Amazon Pharmacy and Amazon One Medical, healthcare just got less painful.
So why am I sharing this? Why does this matter? I think we got to call out these behaviors in our own lives, because that's the only way that we are ever going to start to make a change. Before we get into the hacks, before we get into the cool ways that you can rewire your brain and retrain your brain, you got to notice your behaviors that you're doing in your life that are like, hey, maybe these are hindering my progress. Maybe these are making it so I'm not growing. Maybe these are ways that you can call out your fears and embrace your failures. Quite honestly, a lot of these behaviors are just because we are afraid of what people might think. And I don't know a single person on this planet that wouldn't want people to like them. I don't know a single person who doesn't struggle with people pleasing. I don't know a single person who's like, yeah, you know what? I don't really care about the way that people perceive me. Like, we want to be liked by people. That's just how we're wired. And I really, really believe that you can't simultaneously pursue your calling and pursue the life that God has for you and please everybody. You just can't do it. And so when you're presented with two options, have a growth mindset and tackle the challenge, or view it as an issue and view it as something that's unmovable, I really, really want to encourage you to view it as a challenge. And a friend of mine and I were talking about this a while ago, and it's one of those, a while ago, I said that's so weird, like I'm Canadian or something. A while ago. That was a little Irish, I don't know. I was talking about challenges with a friend one time, and he said something along the lines of like, a challenge is something that you accept. A challenge is something that you embrace. You hear people saying things like, oh, I accept that challenge, or hey, I'm embracing the challenge. But you don't really hear people say like, oh, I'm going to embrace the issue. You hear people say, I have issues, or you hear people say, you have issues, but you really don't hear people say, oh, I accept those issues and I'm just going to like live with them. You hear people say, I'm accepting that challenge. I'm going to tackle it head on. I'm going to face that challenge. Like, challenge is usually met with a little bit of competitiveness and a little bit of excitement. And in my opinion, it's a term that is used when something really cool is about to go down. So I encourage you, when you're embarking on a growth mindset, perceive everything as a challenge that you want to accept rather than an issue that you are facing. How do you train your brain? How do you rewire your brain? How do you use these little psychology hacks to adopt a growth mindset and really prime your brain for growth? I've got 8 points here, and I've got a couple sub points too. Actually, a ton of sub points. Whenever I've been writing episodes lately, I feel like I'm writing a term paper. And I told Lexi that earlier and we just laughed. And I feel like if I could make all of these episodes into a book, I feel like I would have a really thick manuscript, like really, really quickly. That's something that's on my mind lately too, is writing a book. So maybe I need to plug that into my growth mindset. Okay. Anyway, my first point here for you guys is don't buy into the bystander effect. The bystander effect is a theory that essentially states that the more people who are available in an emergency, the less likely it will be that people will jump in to help. If someone is walking down a crowded staircase and they trip and fall, and let's say they drop all their belongings that they're carrying. Maybe she's got a purse, maybe she's got a cup of coffee, maybe she's got a couple books in her hand, maybe she's got another bag of groceries or something. She's got a lot of stuff. Okay, girlfriend is loaded down. And she drops all of her stuff as she's falling down the stairs. If it's super crowded, I think a lot of people will just kind of like look, and then they'll kind of just expect that someone else will jump in to help her. But are you going to be the person that runs up and helps her pick up all of her belongings, or are you just going to kind of like expect that someone else will do it? The diffusion of responsibility essentially means that people will assume that everyone else is going to get it done. I had a experience with this actually in my own life, I called upon a group of people to request some help, request some assistance with a task, and nobody helped. And there could have been a variety of reasons. Maybe people didn't feel equipped. Maybe people weren't available. Maybe people didn't think that their skill set mattered. They didn't have anything to bring to the table. Maybe that's what they thought. And I'm like, guys, you can still help me here with this request. When I was preparing for this episode and I was reading about this theory, I was reminded of a quote. It's the tagline of the Travis Manion Foundation. If you guys aren't familiar, that is a foundation after a fallen Marine, and their tagline, or one of their taglines, is "If not me, then who?" And I really think that you can apply this to your calling. You can apply this to the things that you feel so boldly in your heart are the things that you should be doing with your life. If you feel called to do those things, I don't really think that anyone else is going to fulfill that responsibility except for you. You have to be the one to do it. If you don't do it, then who's going to do it? When you're thinking of your life in like the grand scheme of things, I think the most important thing that you could do for yourself, especially when you're considering how can I equip my mind to better adapt to change, to better adapt to growth, and not fall into some of these safeguarding tendencies, not fall into these behaviors of excuses, of aggression, of withdrawing from what I'm supposed to be doing in my life, from the people who I'm supposed to be surrounded by. If you don't do your calling, no one else will. So stop selling yourself short and thinking that everybody is going to judge you or that everyone's going to think something of you just because you're pursuing something. This kind of goes along with my second point, and that is the idea that the way people perceive you is probably different in every single person's head. So trying to please everybody is going to be nearly impossible. I think ultimately the biggest thing that holds people where they are, that keeps people from growing, is not feeling like people are going to approve. But I don't really think that everybody's making fun of you. I don't really think that everybody's watching you. I don't really think that anybody cares, quite frankly. I think most people are too busy worrying that everyone else is thinking those things about themselves that they don't really care what you're doing. And if they do care, if on the off chance that they're watching you so closely enough that they know your every move, that they are judging you, that they're making fun of you, that they're saying, hey, why is she posting like an influencer? She's not an influencer. Maybe you have a call to share something really, really cool with the world. That's between you and God. That's not between you and Joe Schmo who's making fun of you. Go ahead and do the thing, because I guarantee you most people don't care nearly as much. Next, I wanted to talk about something called the 2-minute rule. This is something that I've been trying to implement now more than ever, because I am just the biggest procrastinator, but I also try to do like a million things at once. So this point and then the next point are going to kind of go in tandem. The 2-minute rule is super, super simple. If you think of a task, and if it's going to take less than 2 minutes for you to do that task, switching the laundry, putting your dirty plate in the dishwasher, maybe it's taking the trash out. If it's going to take you less than 2 minutes to do that thing, you have to do it right then and there. Like, you have to just, boom, get it done. I think that those little practices of taking initiative in your own life will directly translate into taking initiative when it comes to the big things. Taking out the trash is like a pretty basic life skill that you should do probably every day. If you can't even do that, can you trust yourself with the big things? Can you trust yourself to make the big decisions? Can you trust yourself when it comes to, hey, you know what? I think I want to go back to school. Do I trust myself to get my assignments done if I can't even take the trash out? I don't know. That's for you to decide. Similarly, chill with the multitasking. We're always trying to do, I hate it when I hate when podcasts are like, we are a society that just lives on our phones. But it's so true. It's so true. When I see clips of people that's like, we as a society need to just like get off the internet, I think I lose brain cells every single time because everybody says it. But it's so true. According to a recent study at Brown, see, this is what I like. According to a recent study, hit me with the studies, guys. Podcast hosts out there, we got to do better. This is such a sidebar, but we got to do better. We as a society, there's so many bad clips of podcasts out there. It's really funny. This might be one, who knows? All right, according to a recent study at Brown, multitasking can lead to higher stress and more chaos in your life. You can't watch TV and write a paper. You can't store your phone and watch your kid's soccer game. You can't make dinner, or you shouldn't make dinner, and do stuff on the stove while you're also trying to fold laundry. Like, there are just a lot of things that really can't work in tandem. However, there are some things that do work in tandem and work well, and that's if one of those tasks is automated. So I think if you're going to multitask, you can do it, but do it smart and do it with intention. I think ultimately a really good rule, and something that I've been writing in my journal every morning, like, help me, Lord, to just move with intention. Like, let my day be so filled with intentional moments. I don't want to be mindless. I don't want to move through life feeling like I'm giving it like a 20% effort. I want to give so much intention and so much dedication to everything that I do. And so, especially like this semester in school, I've just really felt so, I'm only the second weekend, so this is probably like the new semester talking, but I just really want to be so intentional with the work that I do, with the essays that I submit, with the assignments that I submit, like with the discussion posts that I write to my other classmates. Like, I just want to be so intentional and so there. And if you can't be intentional and do two things at once, you probably shouldn't. Back to my automated thing. I don't think I explained this well. If one task is automated, for example, walking on the treadmill and responding to emails, that's fine because your legs are just doing what they do. They're just walking. But if you're trying to listen to music and respond to emails and have a conversation with your sister and do whatever else, like, it's going to be hard on your brain. We're not really wired to do that. Number 5 on my list here, it's all about the people. You will never be able to be the best version of yourself if you don't have people who are in your corner. Plain and simple. You got to have people who support you. And I think that starts with showing interest in other people's lives. I think that starts with you saying, hey, I want to support you and I hope that you can support me. I mean, you obviously don't like say it like that, but, approaching a friendship with, this is an opportunity to have someone cool in my life who will bring fruits into my life, and I hope to do the same for them. And if the friendship develops to a point where you guys are tight like that, that's such a blessing. I think that starts with like really being intentional with who you are around everybody. There's a book, it's called How to Talk to Anyone, and he's got a lot of, is it a dude? I think so. I think a guy wrote it. The author has a lot of really cool hacks on how to make people want to be your friend. And a lot of them, at least at the beginning, have to do with like eye contact and your body language around other people. I had a friend one time call me out for looking at, it was so funny. I don't know if I've shared this on the podcast. Funny little sidebar. I was talking to my friend. He says that he doesn't remember this, but I think it's hilarious. I guess I was looking at his chest or like looking at his like shirt, and he goes, Lily, do I have something on my shirt? And I was like, no. He's like, okay, well, why do you keep looking at it? You're looking at it like I have a stain on my shirt. And I was like, oh. He's like, yeah, you're avoiding eye contact. Why are you doing that? I was like, I don't know. And he's like, are you insecure about something? And I was like, probably, yeah. And then we just laughed, and he's like, okay, well, you need to get better at eye contact because that's like really bad. Like, if you're not even going to look me in the eyes, like that's really bad. And I was like, all right. And since then, I think about that all the time. And so I think having people like that who are going to teach you things and challenge you and change you is the best and fastest way to a growth mindset, because it's almost like you're just being thrown into the fire. Like, okay, these people have high expectations, and if I want to roll with them, I got to be there too. And that's kind of a cool thing. Like, if you are the smartest person in the room, you're probably in the wrong room. I know that that's been said time and time again, but if you are not actively trying to be a better person because the people around you are calling you higher, you're never going to get there. In the same realm as friendships, I want to talk about something that I saw on a podcast called the 8-minute phone call. And I'm not sure which podcast. I got to start saving and screenshotting things. I'm so bad at remembering where, guys, I love reels. I just sit and I scroll on reels. It's so bad. But I saw this on an Instagram reel and it's called the 8-minute phone call and I loved it. And it's essentially a theory where it only takes 8 minutes for you to start feeling better about something. And so if you have a friend who you know you can call when stuff starts to go sideways, you can come up with some sort of code, whether it's like an emoji or the number 8, or just even saying like, hey, do you have 8 minutes? You guys can text each other that. You know that taking this phone call means that the person on the other end of the line might have a lot to say. They might just need someone to listen. They might just need someone to vent and just be like, you know what? Hey, that situation, those circumstances, not amazing, but I'm here for you. A lot of times that's all you need to feel better. That's all you need to feel better. Vulnerable, transparent moment, was kind of having a bad night the other night. And I just was thinking about a lot of things, navigating some challenges, and I didn't do this. And I just kind of like wallowed in my own self-pity for a little bit, just like sitting there feeling bad for myself. And I really wish that I phoned a friend, because every time that I have phoned a friend, it's always felt so much better. Like, I know I probably would have slept better that night. I probably would have stopped crying for a little bit. But to be quite honest, I didn't want to be like a burden on anybody. And sometimes you just have moments of weakness where you just truly feel like not great and you just don't want to like put that on anybody else. I know I could have called like anybody. If I have a friend listening, I'm probably going to get a couple texts, but I didn't want to. And sometimes you got to be there. You got to sit in it for a little bit. I was praying, I was reading my Bible. Like, that was, great time spent with God, no doubt about it. Like, none of that's ever a waste, but I'm like, dang, God blessed me with these friends for a reason. I should probably lean on them. Didn't do it, kind of regret it. So like situations like that, the 8-minute phone call, huge for the program. There are definitely some convos I need to have that I need to implement this, because I think it'd be very impactful in my own life. And even without this little hack that I found, I've had situations where I'm like, hey, so-and-so, can we chat for a second? And anytime I phone a friend, it's always great. Most of the time we're laughing by the end and it's just lovely. So the 8-minute phone call is now there's a theory behind why you feel better when you talk to your friends. All right, number 7, I think when you are training your brain for growth, you gotta stay busy. If you have time to sit and just kind of stew and stir in your problems and your challenges, you decide that they're issues and then you get stuck in them. If you keep yourself busy with things that are worth your time, you're not going to have time to like sit there and question your calling. You're not going to have time to sit there and convince yourself that everybody's making fun of you. You're not going to have time to sit there and tell yourself that you are in a bad place. Like, you're not going to have time for any of that because you're going to be too busy doing the thing that you're called to do. And last but not least, number 8 is to assume comfort in all situations. Surrender the outcome of whatever is about to happen. I think when we are presented with an opportunity to grow, it usually comes with a lot of discomfort, usually comes with a lot of times where we're questioning if this is part of the plan, where we're questioning if this is the right next step. Just like all aspects of life, any sort of growing season, it's going to stretch you, it's going to change you, it's going to make life weird and hard for a little bit. Philippians 4:11 through 13 says, I am not saying this because this is a letter that Paul wrote. He's in prison when he's writing this. I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content whatever the circumstance. I know what it is to be in need. I know what it means to have plenty. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all things through him who gives me strength. And so whether you're entering into a season of plenty or entering into a season of need, whether if you're entering into a season of hunger or whether you're well-fed, whatever your circumstances are, you have to let God be your foundation, especially when you're in a growing season, especially when things are changing, especially when things are uncertain around you and you just aren't really sure what like your next thing is. As you move through whatever your circumstances are, just hold on to that firm foundation, whether that's through prayer, whether that's through reading your Bible, whether that's through connecting with your community, fellowship. I have felt such a shift in my life when it comes to my personality, when it comes to how I adapt to change, when it comes to being okay with certain changes. And I feel so calm, cool, and collected when I think about what life's about to look like for me. I have so much peace that I'm not saying that it's not going to be hard, because it can be hard and be peaceful simultaneously, even though seem to be contradictory to one another. It can be hard and peaceful. It can be challenging and peaceful. It doesn't have to be this like great big thing. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Like, is it going to be sad when this thing goes down? A little bit. But is there going to be something really cool right around the corner? Absolutely. Because I firmly believe that God has a plan for this season, and I believe the same for you in your life too. And so I just want to send some encouragement your way. If you are in the midst of training your brain for growth, don't buy into the bystander effect. Remember that the way that people perceive you is not your responsibility. Remember the 2-minute rule. Remember the 8-minute phone call. Remember that it's about the people, and that you have to draw closer to people who are going to support and encourage you, and just dump encouragement on you even when you don't ask for it. You got to stay busy, and you got to assume comfort in all situations, no matter the circumstance, because I promise you, staying calm, cool, and collected in every situation, you will always have the upper hand. You will absolutely always have the upper hand. If you're lashing out, if you're angry, if you're withdrawing, if you're disassociating, if you're doing all those things that we talked about, the safeguarding tendencies at the beginning of the episode, if you're doing those things, unfortunately, this growing season is going to be so tough. But if you shift the perspective, shift into a growth mindset, equip yourself with tools to really overcome these challenges and face these challenges and be excited about the challenges, I think that's going to be a really cool time. And you're not going to miss the lesson. You're not going to miss the lesson. When you're paying so much attention, you're not going to miss the cool parts of the growing season. Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to leave a rating, leave a review, leave a comment. That just helps more people find and listen to the show. If you are listening in the car, if you're listening on your walk, if you're listening on your run, if you are folding laundry, if you're cooking dinner, I would love to see what you're up to as you listen to this episode. Feel free to snap a pic and then post a screenshot of the episode next to each other. I would love to see what you're up to, and just send you some encouragement and continue to support you like you guys have supported me. I love you guys so much. I'm so excited for what's next for you. I'm so excited for what's next for the show. And even though I've been cryptic, I'm really excited to share this next thing with you guys in the coming weeks. So love you guys. I hope that you have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you very soon.